Hello, I'm Pastor Paul Camuti, and I'm one of the pastors at Real Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, welcoming you to another segment of Restoration. You know, this past weekend, America celebrated another Independence Day, and Americans all over the country celebrated by grilling hamburgers, hot dogs, chicken, and of course, everything was topped off with fireworks. We know that the most famous passage of the Declaration of Independence says this: "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Though what many of us do not remember anymore is that the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution, the roots of them are found in a document called the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta, which was what British common law was based on, is founded on biblical Christian principles regardless of what you want to believe. And the proof of this is in the wording of the document itself. It opens with the statement, "John, by the grace of God, King of England," and then it goes on to say, "Know that having regard to God and for the salvation of our soul, and those of all our ancestors and heirs, and unto the honor of God, and the advancement of the Holy Church," of His Holy Church rather, the first thing the Magna Carta addresses is, "In the first place, we have granted to God, and by our present charter confirmed for us and our heirs forever, that the English Church shall be free, and shall have rights entire, and her liberties inviolate." The Magna Carta contains the principles espoused in the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. Principles such as the right to a speedy trial, the right to a trial by a jury of our peers, a right to property and to keep what we labor for, the principle that government cannot take away our right to life, liberty, or property without our consent. The Magna Carta also made very clear that the king, the citizen, the lord, and the servant were all equally accountable to the rule of law. However, over time, the English kings imposed a doctrine called the divine right of kings, and they began to rule as if they were above the law and above the law of God in which the Magna Carta was based. This is why the Puritans and the Separatists, later known as the Pilgrims, left England for America. They came to America to be free from such oppression. The Puritans, the Pilgrims, and then later the colonists and the Founding Fathers considered themselves all to be English. However, King George III did not treat the colonists with the same equality that the English people had back in the homeland. When the colonists formed its first missionary society to bring the gospel to the American Indians, King George vetoed the charter. King George also vetoed laws to end slavery in Pennsylvania and to end slavery in other colonies as well. For 10 long years, the colonists and the founders tried to reconcile with England, but King George continued to increase his antagonism towards the colonists. If one reads the violations of the Declaration of Independence lists against King George, it would clearly show that King George was in violation of the Magna Carta, which was essentially the law of the land of England. So he was violating law. Which brings us to the passage of the Declaration of Independence that I read. It is not difficult to understand what the founders meant with what they said. First of all, there is the historical context, which reveals the intent that they had. Also, the founders commissioned Noah Webster to write a dictionary, the 1828 Noah Webster Dictionary, with over 70,000 words, because the founders realized that the usage of words can change from one generation to the next generation. They wanted future generations to know just what they meant by defining the words and how those words were used in their day, so that there would be proper interpretation and proper understanding of such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. As to the proper interpretation of our founding documents, Thomas Jefferson said this: "On every question of the Constitution, carry ourselves back to the time when the Constitution was adopted and recollect the spirit manifested in the debates, and instead of trying what meaning may be squeezed out of the text or invented against it, conform to the probable on which it was passed. Justice Joseph Story, the founder of Harvard Law School and the foremost of American legal writers, had this to say: "The first and fundamental rule in the interpretation of all instruments, meaning documents, is to construe them according to the sense of the terms and the intent of the parties." What did the founders mean by all men are created equal? One of the definitions for equal in the 1828 dictionary means being on the same terms, enjoying the same or similar benefits. In context, we see how all men are created equal. They are all equal on the same terms and enjoying the same benefits in that they are all equally endowed by their Creator. Creator, according to the 1828 dictionary, is the being or person that creates, which is God, because to illustrate the definition of Creator, Noah Webster cited Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 1, which says, "Remember now our Creator in the days of your youth." According to the 1828 Webster Dictionary, unalienable rights are rights that cannot be transferred to any other person, any group of people, or the government. Meaning, these rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness come from God and God only. No person can give these rights, no group of people can give these rights, and no government can give these rights. Since our Creator God has given us non-transferable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, does that mean that we're able to do whatever we want to do? That we have the liberty to pursue happiness any way we want to pursue happiness? Absolutely not. How do we know that absolutely not is the correct answer? How do we know that the founders would think in terms that I'm presenting? All we have to do is hear what the founders themselves said. And also be reminded that Noah Webster showed us through his illustration of Creator by citing Ecclesiastes 12:1 that the Creator is God, the Christian God, seeing how Noah quoted from the Bible. Well, in the same chapter 12 of Ecclesiastes, verses 13 through 14 says this: "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is man's all. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or whether evil." Christians of the founding era, including preachers, typically use words like Creator, Providence, and even deity to reference God. They also use the term religion to reference Christianity. George Washington said, "True religion affords the government its surest support." President Washington also, in a speech to a delegation of Delaware Indian chiefs, said that they would do well to, quote, "above all, learn the religion of Jesus Christ." William Patterson, signer of the U.S. Constitution and a U.S. Supreme Court Justice, said this: "Religion and morality are necessary to good government, good order, and good laws. Today in our nation, we have an increasingly corrupt government which is encroaching more and more on our liberties. We have chaos instead of order, and we have laws that take life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness from right-living, productive people in our society." So I guess we could safely conclude that our nation has been dispensing with religion and morality in light of what George Washington and William Patterson has said. John Adams said this: "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate for the government of any other." So much for the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution being completely secular documents. I think it would be safe to say that the Founding Fathers' view that we are all equally given the unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is that when that we have these rights as long as we are live by and are governed by the principles of God. America, including Christian Church in America, has been pursuing those rights the way we want to have those rights instead of the way God gave them to us. On July 8, 1776, at the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence, the Liberty Bell was rung. Inscribed on the side of the Liberty Bell, it says this: "Proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof." This is a quote from Leviticus chapter 25, verse 10. John Adams said of the celebration of Independence Day, "It ought to be commemorated as a day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty." Tell me, how many of us even think about God on Independence Day? How many of us even think that our freedoms, which are rapidly eroding, comes from Him, God alone? How would the Founding Fathers feel about the recent Supreme Court decision and ruling which redefined marriage? The answer can be found in Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary. Noah Webster defined marriage as the act of uniting a man and a woman for life. Marriage was instituted by God Himself for the purpose of preventing the promiscuous intercourse of the sexes, for promoting domestic felicity, and for securing the maintenance and education of children. Noah Webster cited Hebrews 13 to support the definition, "Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled." He also defined marriage in this sense: in a scriptural sense, the union between Christ and His church by the covenant of grace, citing Revelation 19. 2 Corinthians says this: "Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty." I ask you, do you feel that there is more liberty in America today, or do you feel there's less liberty in America today? If you feel that there is less liberty in America today, is it because the Spirit of the Lord is departing from our nation due to our allowing God to be removed from every arena of life and calling good evil and evil good? Consider and ponder those things between now and the next Independence Day. In light of all this, my book, Sound the Alarm, The Spiritual Side of the Culture War, was released in April, and it's now available on barnesandnoble.com, which is also, they have their Nook, which you could also order it through. It's available through amazon.com, and it's also available through amazon.com's Kindle as well. You could also order it directly from Tate Publishing. That's www.tatepublishing.com/bookstore. That's www.tatepublishing.com/bookstore. Also, please check out my article, America Meltdown, that I posted on my website, www.thepatrioticpastor.com. Again, that's www.thepatrioticpastor.com. Click on Oracles of Liberty, and you'll see the article, America Meltdown. Please also check my Sound the Alarm Facebook page. And whether you agree with me or not, I would like to hear from you. You could go the old-fashioned way of writing me at The Patriotic Pastor, care of Real Church, 315 South Sheridan Road in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74112. That's The Patriotic Pastor, care of Real Church, 315 South Sheridan Road, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74112. Or you can email me at thepatrioticpastor@yahoo.com. Again, email patrioticpastor@yahoo.com. It's time to hear the sound of the alarm. It's time to take heed to the sound of the alarm. Until next time, God save America.